Human enters a pulse cavern with alien girl, triggering a vanished city to answer human alone. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main characters. Jack Carter, a seasoned explorer with years of treasure hunting under his belt, found himself standing at the entrance of a mysterious cavern. The Pulse Cavern, known only in hushed whispers among those who sought the forbidden and the unknown, lay before him. The air was thick with a strange, pulsing energy, as though the very walls of the cavern were alive. Jack adjusted the strap on his pack, glancing at his companion. Lyra, the alien girl, stood by his side. Her teal skin shimmered in the dim light, her eyes gleaming like twin stars. Despite her calm demeanor, Jack could sense the unease in her posture. She was not from Earth, not even close, but in the harsh world they navigated together, they shared an unspoken understanding. Lyra had led him here, to this ancient place, to a cavern that was said to hold the secrets of a vanished civilization. They had faced countless dangers on their journey, but this place felt different. The air was charged with anticipation, and Jack could feel the weight of the cavern pressing in on him. "Are you sure this is the right place?" Jack asked, his voice low as he looked at the cavern's entrance. Lyra nodded, her gaze fixed on the darkness ahead. "The city is here, Jack. It's always been here, waiting for the right person to awaken it. You are the one who will trigger its secrets." Jack wasn't so sure. He had heard stories of cities that disappeared without a trace, but he had never believed they could be real. Yet, here he was, standing in front of something that felt impossible. Something that could change everything. As they stepped deeper into the cavern, the air shifted, becoming warmer, heavier. A soft hum echoed through the walls, a sound that seemed to resonate with the very core of his being. It was as if the city was alive, waiting for them to unlock its hidden potential. Jack's heart raced as they ventured further, the hum growing louder, more intense. He glanced over at Lyra, who was now moving with a sense of purpose. "This is it," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the growing energy. "The city is waking up." Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet trembled, and the cavern around them began to shift. Jack stumbled, reaching out for Lyra, but she was already steady, her eyes locked onto the glowing symbols appearing on the walls around them. The city, long hidden in the depths of time, was answering. And it was answering to him alone. As Jack steadied himself against the tremor shaking the ground beneath his feet, the cavern walls began to pulse with a soft, rhythmic glow, casting eerie, shifting shadows around them. Lyra, still standing unmoved, looked at him with a sense of quiet determination. Her alien features, always so alien to Jack, seemed almost human now. Her concern for the situation was clear in her gaze, but she did not speak. The cavern had come alive, and with each pulse, it felt like the heart of an ancient city was slowly starting to beat once again. Jack felt a strange pull, an invisible force tugging at him as though the cavern itself were calling him forward. "What now?" Jack asked, his voice carrying a hint of awe mixed with uncertainty. Lyra's response was calm, yet firm. "We continue. The city answers only to you." She paused, her eyes scanning the glowing symbols now etched along the cavern's walls. "You must trigger its awakening, Jack." Her words hung heavy in the air, and for a moment, Jack wondered if this was all a mistake. He wasn't a scientist or a scholar, just a man who had wandered too far. And yet, here he was, in the middle of an ancient, living place, connected to something far greater than himself. The symbols on the wall began to shift and change, aligning in a way that made Jack feel as though he were witnessing something sacred, something beyond the realm of human understanding. Slowly, the entire cavern seemed to respond, the walls vibrating, the light intensifying. It was then that Jack realized, this was no ordinary city. It had a purpose, a consciousness, and it was awakening after centuries of slumber. As they moved deeper into the cavern, Jack's steps felt heavier. The air was thick with energy, and every breath he took seemed to deepen his connection to the city itself. He felt as though the very stone beneath his feet had become part of him, part of a larger whole. "It's guiding you, Jack," Lyra said softly, her voice breaking through his thoughts. "You can feel it, can't you?" Jack nodded, but he didn't fully understand. "I don't know what to do." Lyra smiled, her alien features softening. "You're doing it. Just by being here, you've already begun the process. The city needs you, just as much as you need it." Jack's mind raced as they continued their journey through the cavern, each step leading them closer to something unimaginable. The light grew brighter, the hum louder, until it felt as though the city itself was alive, aware of their presence, waiting for Jack to fulfill his part in its awakening. Then, without warning, a section of the cavern wall slid open, revealing a vast, hidden chamber beyond. The air was cooler here, and the light was sharper, casting long shadows across the room. In the center of the room stood what appeared to be an ancient console, covered in dust and debris. But Jack could sense the power emanating from it. It was a relic, a piece of technology far beyond anything Earth had ever known. He stepped forward, drawn to it as if guided by an unseen force. As his fingers brushed the surface of the console, a low hum filled the air, and the ground beneath his feet trembled once more. Jack stepped back, heart racing, as the console began to glow with a bright, blinding light. The city had answered, and now, the path to its secrets was open to him alone. As the glowing light from the console filled the chamber, Jack stepped back, his heart pounding in his chest. The air seemed to crackle with energy, and for a moment, he thought he might be swallowed by the sheer power emanating from the ancient technology. The console hummed louder, and Jack felt a pull in his gut, urging him forward. He reached out again, his hand trembling slightly as his fingers made contact with the surface. Instantly, the light grew even brighter, enveloping the entire room in a blinding glow. For a moment, everything went silent. Then, with a sudden flash, the light flickered, revealing something that took Jack's breath away. Before him, a holographic map materialized, displaying a vast network of ancient cities, long forgotten by time. Some were marked with intricate symbols, while others were barely more than faint outlines, their histories lost to the ages. Jack's eyes widened as he studied the map, realizing that the city he was in was just one of many scattered across the galaxy. It was like a key, a piece of a much larger puzzle, and somehow, he was holding it in his hands. This is incredible," Jack whispered, barely able to comprehend the magnitude of what he was seeing. Lyra stepped beside him, her eyes scanning the map with a mixture of awe and recognition. "It's the Pulse Network," she said softly. "A system of cities built by my people long ago. But they disappeared, vanished, before they could complete their purpose. Now, it seems, they have chosen you to finish what they started." Jack turned to her, his mind racing. "But why me? I'm just a man. I don't know anything about this." Lyra smiled, her gaze softening. "The city answers to you because you are human. There is something about your species, something innate, that connects you to the Pulse Network. It has always been this way." Jack absorbed her words, trying to process everything. He wasn't sure he understood, but something deep inside him told him that this was his destiny. He had stumbled into a mystery far beyond his wildest imagination, and now, he was the key to unlocking its secrets. The map before him shifted, revealing a new location, a city that seemed to be located on the other side of the galaxy, far from where they stood. The image zoomed in, and Jack could see the intricate design of the city, its spires reaching toward the stars. "This is where it all begins," Lyra said, her voice steady. "The next step is up to you." Jack looked at her, uncertainty clouding his thoughts. "What do I do now?" "You follow the path," Lyra replied. "The Pulse Network will guide you. But be careful, Jack. The cities are not without their dangers. There are forces out there that will try to stop you from unlocking the full potential of the network." Jack took a deep breath, his mind made up. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he knew one thing for certain, he couldn't turn back now. The city had chosen him. And he had a mission to complete. Together with Lyra, he would journey to the next city, wherever it was, and uncover the secrets hidden within the Pulse network. As they prepared to leave the cavern, Jack felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. The journey ahead would be long, filled with challenges and unknowns, but he was ready. The Pulse network had awoken, and so had he. The journey to the next city began the moment Jack and Lyra stepped out of the cavern, the air around them still tingling with the energy of the Pulse network. As they walked, the map on the console had already led them to a new destination, a remote planet, located in a system far from Earth. The path ahead was unclear, but Jack could feel the pull, as if the very stars themselves were guiding him toward something monumental. Lyra walked beside him, her usual calm demeanor unchanged, but Jack could see the spark of something in her eyes. She knew more than she let on, but she hadn't shared everything with him yet. "How far is it?" Jack asked, breaking the silence between them as they moved through the thick forest on the edge of the cavern. Lyra glanced up at the sky, her eyes scanning the horizon as if reading the stars themselves. "It's about a week's journey by ship, but we'll need to navigate carefully. The planet is not as quiet as it seems." Jack nodded, trying to make sense of her words. He could feel the weight of their mission, the responsibility that had been thrust upon him. "What exactly are we looking for?" "The city holds the key to the Pulse network," Lyra replied. "But it's more than just technology. It's a place of ancient knowledge, of power. Whoever controls it can control the future of this entire galaxy." Jack's mind raced as he processed her words. "And you think that's why they chose me?" Lyra didn't respond immediately. Instead, she gave him a thoughtful look, as if deciding how much to share. "I don't know," she said quietly. "But I do know that you're the one who can unlock it. The city, the network, it's all tied to you, Jack. I've never seen anything like this." Jack's mind was swirling with questions. The idea of controlling the future of the galaxy was overwhelming, but he had to admit there was a strange certainty in Lyra's words. He had no idea why the city had answered to him, or what exactly it meant for him to be its chosen one, but there was a part of him that knew he couldn't turn back. They continued their journey in silence, the path ahead uncertain but their purpose clear. After several days of travel, they finally reached the edge of the planet's atmosphere. Their ship, a sleek, compact model built for speed, cut through the clouds, descending into the dense forest below. The moment the ship touched down, a strange feeling washed over Jack. The air felt thick, charged with energy, as if the planet itself was alive, watching them. "This is it," Lyra said, her voice low but filled with reverence. Jack stepped out of the ship, his boots crunching on the dry earth beneath him. The landscape before him was unlike anything he had seen before, towering trees that reached high into the sky, their trunks wrapped in thick vines. Strange, glowing plants dotted the ground, casting an eerie light in the twilight. But it was the city that lay ahead that caught his attention. Hidden deep within the jungle, he could see the faint outline of ancient structures, their silhouettes barely visible through the thick foliage. The city was there, just as the map had shown, waiting to be discovered. "We need to move quickly," Lyra said, her voice urgent. "Once we reach the city, we'll have to activate the pulse, but we're not the only ones who want this power." Jack felt a chill run down his spine as the weight of her words sank in. They weren't alone on this planet. They had competitors, others who would stop at nothing to control the power of the Pulse network. As they made their way through the jungle, the air grew thicker, and the sense of urgency grew stronger. Jack could feel the city calling to him, pulling him forward. The Pulse network was within reach, and with it, the answers to everything he had been searching for. But as they neared the entrance to the city, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, waiting for the moment to strike. As Jack and Lyra moved deeper into the jungle, the dense foliage seemed to close in around them. The air was thick with moisture, and the distant hum of the Pulse network pulsed through the ground beneath their feet, calling them forward. Jack's heart raced with anticipation. He could almost feel the city's presence, just beyond the trees, waiting to reveal its secrets. But as they pushed through the thick vines, a strange tension filled the air. Jack glanced around, his instincts telling him something was off. "You feel that?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Lyra nodded, her sharp eyes scanning the dense forest. I do. We're being watched. The thought sent a shiver down Jack's spine. They had known there would be danger, but this felt different, more like a presence, not just an enemy. Lyra moved quietly, leading the way, her senses alert as always. Jack followed closely behind, trying to remain as quiet as possible. Every step he took felt like it echoed through the jungle, like something, or someone, was tracking their every move. The faint outline of the city grew clearer, and Jack could make out the towering spires of ancient structures rising above the treetops. It was breathtaking, unlike anything he had ever seen before. The city had been waiting for centuries, dormant and hidden, its secrets preserved in time. But Jack wasn't sure they had much time left. The feeling of being watched intensified, and he couldn't shake the sense that they were walking into a trap. We need to hurry, Jack urged, his voice tight with urgency. The city is close, but something isn't right. Lyra turned to him, her gaze steady. I know. Stay close, and whatever happens, don't let go of the map. It's the key to unlocking everything. As they approached the entrance of the city, the air grew colder, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to hum with energy. The city's gates loomed before them, ancient and imposing, covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift and move as if alive. Jack took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. They had come so far, and now, they were on the brink of discovering something that could change everything. But as he stepped forward, something in the distance caught his eye. A shadow, moving swiftly between the trees. He barely had time to react before Lyra grabbed his arm. It's them, she whispered, her voice filled with warning. They're here. Jack's pulse quickened as he turned to face her. Who? Lyra's eyes narrowed, her expression hardening. The ones who don't want us to unlock the city. They'll stop at nothing to keep its power hidden. Before Jack could ask more, a low, rumbling sound echoed from the depths of the jungle, followed by the unmistakable thrum of energy. Something was coming. We don't have much time, Lyra said urgently. We have to get inside, now. They rushed toward the city's gates, their footsteps quickening as the humming energy grew louder. But just as they reached the entrance, the ground trembled beneath them. The gates creaked and groaned as if awakening from a long slumber. Slowly, they began to open, revealing the dark, ancient city beyond. Jack and Lyra exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. They had made it this far, but the real challenge was only just beginning. As the gates opened fully, a gust of wind swept through, carrying with it a strange, otherworldly scent, ancient, powerful, and filled with untold secrets. They stepped forward, into the heart of the city, where the answers they sought awaited. But as they crossed the threshold, the ground beneath them shook violently, and a voice, low, commanding, and filled with ancient power, echoed through the city. You should not have come. The city had awakened, and it was speaking to them, its ancient power now fully aware of their presence. The voice echoed through the city with a deep, resonant power, causing the ground beneath Jack and Lyra to tremble. It wasn't a physical sound, it was as if the words were part of the very air, vibrating with energy, carrying an authority that demanded attention. You should not have come. The voice was ancient, its tone heavy with warning, but there was something else, something familiar about it. Jack looked around, but the city remained as silent as ever, its towering structures casting long shadows in the pale light. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding, and yet, they had no choice but to press forward. Lyra's hand tightened around the map as she stepped closer to Jack. We knew this would happen, she said, her voice steady, though the unease was evident in her eyes. The city doesn't just give up its secrets easily. It tests those who seek its power. Jack nodded, still processing the weight of the voice they had just heard. There was something unsettling about it, like it wasn't just a warning, but a challenge. What happens if we fail? He asked, his voice low. Lyra's gaze met his, unwavering. We don't have that option. They continued walking deeper into the city, the path now lit by an eerie, shifting glow that seemed to come from nowhere. The air was cooler here, almost crisp, as if the city itself was holding its breath. The walls of the structures around them were adorned with intricate carvings, symbols that Jack couldn't make sense of. Some were faint, worn by time, while others glowed faintly, their meaning just out of reach. "The city is alive," Lyra said softly, her voice a whisper against the silence. "It watches, listens, and judges. It will only reveal itself to those who prove worthy." Jack looked at her, the weight of her words settling in. He had no idea what being worthy meant in a city as ancient as this. All he knew was that they had come too far to turn back now. Suddenly, the ground beneath them rumbled again, but this time, it wasn't the tremors of the city. This was different, something was moving, something big. Jack's heart skipped a beat as a massive stone door began to slide open in front of them. The sound was like the groan of the earth itself, and for a moment, Jack thought they had triggered something they weren't prepared for. But Lyra stepped forward, unfazed, and motioned for him to follow. "It's time," she said. "The city has chosen you. The door opens for you alone." Jack hesitated, but only for a moment. He had no idea what lay beyond the door, but he knew this was the moment they had been waiting for. As they crossed the threshold, the air shifted once again, colder and sharper, and the room beyond the door opened up like a vast, ancient chamber. At the center of the room, a large pedestal stood, glowing with a soft, pulsating light. Jack's eyes widened as he approached, the pulse of the energy growing stronger with every step. It was as if the city itself was alive, its heart beating in time with his own. The pedestal was surrounded by strange, intricate carvings, more symbols, and markings that seemed to glow brighter the closer Jack got. Lyra stood at a distance, her eyes watching him closely. "This is it," she said, her voice a mere whisper. "The city will reveal itself to you now. It is your choice what happens next." Jack felt his pulse quicken, his hands trembling as he reached out toward the pedestal. He didn't know what he was expecting, some grand revelation, some ancient wisdom, but as his fingers brushed against the surface, the light flared brightly, and a deep, resonating voice filled the air again. "Welcome, chosen one. The path has been long, but your journey has only just begun." The voice echoed with power, but now, there was no sense of threat, only a strange invitation, as if the city was beckoning him to unlock its final secret. Jack felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. He was no longer just a man searching for answers, he was the key to something much greater. The city had awakened, and now, it was waiting for him to decide what would come next. The voice echoed in the chamber once again, a deep, almost melodic tone that seemed to vibrate through the very air around them. "The path has been long, but your journey has only just begun." Jack felt a shiver run down his spine. This was no ordinary technology. This was something ancient, powerful, and now it was calling to him. He turned to Lyra, who stood by silently, her eyes fixed on the pedestal. "What happens now?" Jack asked, his voice filled with a mix of uncertainty and awe. Lyra's gaze remained steady, her expression unreadable. "Now, you make the choice. The city offers its knowledge, but you must decide what to do with it." Jack's hand still hovered over the glowing pedestal. He could feel the energy pulsing through his fingertips, and for the first time, he realized the weight of what he was about to uncover. This wasn't just about exploring a forgotten city. This was about unlocking a power that could change the fate of the galaxy. As the light from the pedestal grew brighter, Jack stepped back slightly, unsure of what to do. "I don't even know what this power is," he murmured, almost to himself. "I don't know if I'm ready for this." Lyra's voice broke through his doubts, soft but resolute. "It is not about being ready, Jack. It is about accepting the responsibility that comes with it." She stepped forward, her alien features illuminated by the soft glow. "The city has been dormant for centuries. It has waited for someone with the strength and the will to unlock its secrets. And now, that person is you." Jack's thoughts raced. He had always considered himself just an explorer, a man searching for treasure and adventure. But this was different. This was not a discovery, it was a calling. His hand hovered over the pedestal again, the energy from the city now enveloping him in a warm embrace. "What happens if I accept this?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper. The city will reveal itself to you fully, Lyra answered. Its knowledge, its power. Everything that was lost will be found again. But with that knowledge comes great responsibility. The power to shape the future, to change the course of history. Jack took a deep breath, the weight of her words sinking in. He could feel the tension in the air, the ancient city holding its breath as if waiting for him to make his decision. He knew that the path ahead would not be easy. He didn't know if he was prepared for the consequences of unlocking the city's secrets. But he also knew that turning back wasn't an option. His fingers touched the pedestal once more, and the light flared to life, brighter than ever before. A sudden rush of energy filled the room, and Jack's body hummed with power. The walls of the city seemed to vibrate, and the symbols around them began to shift, rearranging themselves into a complex pattern that Jack couldn't quite comprehend. "This is it," Lyra said, her voice filled with reverence. "You've done it, Jack. The city is yours now." The ground beneath them trembled as the city responded, the ancient energy flowing through the very fabric of the planet. Jack felt a surge of power unlike anything he had ever experienced. He could feel the weight of history pressing down on him, the lives of countless beings now in his hands. But as the energy washed over him, a new understanding bloomed within him. He wasn't just the chosen one to unlock the city's secrets, he was now its protector. The city, its knowledge, and its power were all bound to him. And with that power came a choice, to shape the future or to let it slip away into the past, forgotten and lost. Jack looked at Lyra, the weight of his decision heavy on his shoulders. The future of the galaxy was now in his hands. The city had chosen him, and now, it was time for him to choose what to do with that power. As the light from the pedestal began to dim, Jack stood still, absorbing the full weight of the choice he had just made. The energy that surged through him only moments ago seemed to settle within his bones, a steady, almost calming pulse. His heart was still racing, but the connection to the city was undeniable. He could feel its power flowing through him, ancient and vast, like a river that had been waiting to break free. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes locked onto the city, which was now beginning to reveal itself fully. The structures around them hummed with life, glowing with a soft, ethereal light that seemed to pulse in time with the energy inside Jack. It was as if the entire city was breathing, alive in a way that felt both comforting and overwhelming. "It's yours now," Lyra said quietly, breaking the silence. Her voice held a reverence that Jack could feel deep within him. She had been waiting for this moment, perhaps longer than he had realized. He turned to her, his mind still processing the magnitude of what had just occurred. "I don't know what to do with all of this," he admitted, his voice uncertain. "You don't have to do it alone," Lyra replied, her gaze soft but firm. "You've unlocked the city, but you're not the only one with a role to play here. The city is bound to you now, but it's also connected to me, to the Pulse network. We're in this together." Jack nodded slowly, taking in her words. The weight of the responsibility was still heavy on his shoulders, but for the first time since entering the city, he didn't feel alone. He had a purpose now, and Lyra was by his side, ready to help him navigate the complexities of this newfound power. They stood in the heart of the city, surrounded by the glowing structures that seemed to reach toward the sky. Jack's mind raced with questions, but one thing was clear, the city was no longer just a place of ancient knowledge. It was a living entity, waiting to be explored, and it had chosen him. As they moved deeper into the city, the walls began to shift, revealing more of the ancient technology embedded in its foundations. Strange devices hummed with life, their surfaces glowing with intricate patterns that Jack couldn't quite understand. The city seemed to respond to their presence, as though it was aware of their every movement. Jack reached out to touch one of the devices, and as his fingers brushed the surface, the entire structure lit up, casting a brilliant light across the chamber. A voice, similar to the one they had heard before, filled the room once again, resonating through the very walls. "You have awakened the heart of the city. Now, you must decide how to wield its power. The path is yours to choose, but remember, with great power comes great responsibility." The voice faded, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Jack swallowed hard, the reality of the situation settling in. He had the power to change everything, to reshape the future, but he wasn't sure what that meant for him, for Lyra, or for the galaxy as a whole. "What now?" Jack asked, his voice low. Lyra turned to him, her eyes steady and sure. "Now, we learn. The city has shown us its power, but we must understand it before we can use it. We must unlock its secrets, piece by piece." Jack nodded, determined. They had come this far, and now, the real journey was just beginning. As they continued through the city, Jack could feel the weight of the decisions that lay ahead, but he also felt a sense of hope. The city was alive, and with it, the promise of a future unlike anything they had ever known. The Pulse network had been awakened, and together, Jack and Lyra would uncover its secrets and decide what kind of future they would create with its power. The city around Jack and Lyra seemed to pulse with life, each step they took causing the ancient structures to respond, the faint hum of energy vibrating through the air. They moved deeper into the heart of the city, where towering spires rose toward the sky, their surfaces covered with symbols and patterns that glowed with an otherworldly light. Jack's mind was still reeling from the enormity of what had just happened. The Pulse network was real, and now, he was connected to it in a way he couldn't fully understand. But there was no time for doubt. The city had awoken, and with it, the knowledge and power it held were now within reach. "What happens now?" Jack asked, his voice filled with both uncertainty and determination. Lyra turned to him, her expression serious. "Now, we must delve deeper. The city has chosen you, Jack, but the knowledge within it is not easily given. It requires more than just unlocking its secrets, it requires understanding, patience, and wisdom." Jack nodded, the weight of her words settling heavily on him. They had come this far, but they were only at the beginning of what could be a long and difficult journey. "What exactly are we looking for?" he asked, his voice almost lost among the echoes of the city. Lyra's eyes sparkled with a mix of reverence and excitement. "We're looking for the core," she said, her voice filled with quiet urgency. "The core of the city holds the key to unlocking the full potential of the Pulse network. It is the heart of this civilization, the source of all its power." Jack felt the ground beneath his feet shift slightly, as though the city itself was responding to their words. The energy in the air seemed to hum more intensely, guiding them forward. "How do we find it?" Jack asked. Lyra pointed toward a distant structure, a massive, intricate temple at the center of the city. "The core is located there. But reaching it will not be easy. The city will test us. It will challenge our resolve, our understanding, and our ability to wield its power." Jack's heart raced. He had already felt the power of the city coursing through him, but he knew there was much more to it than he could comprehend. "Are we ready for this?" he asked, doubt creeping into his voice. Lyra turned to him, her gaze unwavering. "We don't have a choice," she said. "We must be ready." They began their journey toward the temple, the path winding through ancient streets lined with strange, glowing statues and towering pillars. The city felt alive, its energy pulsing through every stone, every structure. As they approached the entrance to the temple, the air grew thicker, the energy more intense. Jack could feel his connection to the city strengthening, the power flowing through him with each step. "This is it," Lyra whispered. "The city's core is just beyond these gates. Once we enter, there will be no turning back." Jack nodded, his resolve hardening. He had come this far, and he wasn't about to stop now. The temple doors creaked open, revealing an enormous chamber filled with swirling light and energy. At the center of the room stood a pedestal, its surface glowing with a soft, pulsating light. The core was within reach. But as Jack stepped forward, the ground beneath him shook once more, and a voice, deeper and more commanding than before, echoed through the temple. "Only those worthy may approach the core." The voice was not threatening, but there was a power in it that made Jack's heart race. Lyra stepped beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder. "This is the final test," she said, her voice steady. "The city will decide if we are worthy of its power." Jack took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling in. The city had already chosen him once. Now, it was time to prove that he was ready to unlock its full potential. He stepped forward, his hand reaching out toward the pedestal. The energy in the room swirled around him, growing stronger with every step. The city was waiting, its future now in his hands.